The deck you are looking at just won a massive tournament. This is Origin Form Palkia, Palkia EX, and Manaphy. So this deck got through a field of almost 900 competitors with one of the biggest tournament prize pools ever in the scene. Maybe the biggest, I can't guarantee that for sure, but one of the biggest the scene has ever seen. It was the Hooglandia Spragels Open Series that we ran on mine and Jeff's channel. It was amazing. I'm going to show you some big games from that tournament and the games that won the entire thing. The idea behind this deck and the reason it works so well is because when you have Manaphy, you are usually giving up a point to your opponents, right? And after Manaphy gets KO'd and then Palkia comes in, those are your 3 points that you could possibly give to your opponents. Well, with something like Origin Form Palkia, this changes. So you can give a point with Manaphy, you could then move Palkia in to do some decent damage as Origin Form, and then you can play around a lot of situations with the rest of the deck. We have 2 Professor's Research, 2 Pokeballs, a Cyrus, a Sabrina, 2 Misties, 2 Leafs, 2 Iridas, and 2 Giant Capes. So this deck has a ton of HP, it has a lot of maneuverability with Leaf, and it also has a ton of ways. It has multiple ways to generate extra energy. You will see again this deck win the entire thing as Jeff and I were watching it. It also had some amazing moments where it took a series to a tie. I should probably put that game in here too. Like just so many incredible moments. You also have, of course, the crazy RNG that can come with something like Misty. So enjoy this breakout dark horse deck of the entire tournament. Origin Form Palkia, Palkia EX.
All right, gamers, we are just getting right on in to the top 4 action here. It's been a long day, and we want to get this show on the road and crown ourselves the champion. We've got the lone remaining Dialga Arceus player battling it out against Origin Form Palkia Manaphy in the top. On the other side of our top 4 bracket, we have 2 Rampardos fighting decks duking it out in a mirror match. That'll be one of them waiting for the winner of this in the finals.
Yeah, so one way or another, these are going to be running into Lucario Rampardos. And I got to say, I feel a little bit better as the Palkia deck running into that. It feels like it plays a little better into it, given that Rampardos can KO this Arceus so easily. But there we go, starting off pretty strong with 2 heads on a Misty.
Oh, I know chat loves when we start out high stakes games with that. It's super exciting. The tension or lack thereof it creates.
We're taking a look at this hand. It is a little bit of abysmal right here. Sabrina is going to bring in the Manaphy right now.
See, that's actually kind of interesting to me, because they're still 2 turns off of using that Palkia to clear anyways. I feel like they'd almost rather have the Manaphy up in this spot.
Yeah. Yeah. Manaphy gets a cape. There's really not. I mean, this hand is just very unfortunate. Very unfortunate for our Arceus Dialga player.
All right. I mean, if they get another basic Pokemon here, they're not dead next turn. But with Shaman being the other basic that they got, I think the rating's going to be on the wall, as we say.
Yeah, yeah, it's very bad. I mean, yeah, they're putting energy on it, but to what end, right? I guess they could retreat.
Yeah, we see them hover over that there, but even that doesn't seem like an incredibly winning line, right? Like you're gonna black hole energy yourself, having 0 energy versus 5 on board and 8 next turn.
Yeah, just a really rough start. No basics. Even Professor's only giving them 1. They have Cyrus, Leaf, Geo. All good cards. Not here, though.
Yep. We see the long pause here, just like trying to think through all of their basically bad options. Just sometimes it's where you end up at.
Here comes the Palkia. This is an obvious KO. You definitely take this.
Yep.
Now it's just Shaman at 40 HP. You're going to have to top deck or pull with Professors something to get back in this game.
Yep. Dialga's obviously, I think all of your winning lines for our bottom players start with a Dialga into an Arceus most likely, but you really need to put an energy on something meaningful this turn to have a shot.
Pokeball. Mars is not useful here. Skarmory is interesting. The problem is you've got that Shaman in the active spot.
Yep.
It's kind of hard to get out.
We don't have a way to get the Skarmory up in there just yet. We could put an energy on it, and then next turn we can leaf it out technically.
All right. We have a possible. I mean, they only played one Misty, right? You could be Mistying here again.
Yeah, Misty would end it real fast for sure. What's
Yeah.
what's the fastest line to get back to another deal 150 here? I honestly really like this charge up the one in the back. You're like, all right, I'm just gonna keep slashing, and if that's not good enough, we'll have a 150 locked, loaded, and ready to go.
We've got our Dialga. The 30 though opens up a Cyrus, huh? And
Yep.
with putting that cape, well, I guess you do make this play. Absolutely.
Yeah, you get to Mars
get
and
rid
down
of
to
the
one
ability
card.
for.
Yep.
It's very possible you just got rid of a bunch of mech cards and gave them Cyrus.
That
That's
is
pretty unlikely.
technically a possibility for sure.
Are they running Sabrina also? I wonder. The way they played around that tells me they are not running Sabrina.
Yeah, I would assume there's no Sabrina for their top
There is
player.
a Sabrina.
There is. Okay. So small mistake there. Just leaning on the Mars to do the heavy lifting. It kind of feels like we're in garbage time at this point though, going through the motions. The Palkia, even if the lead one goes down, the charged up second Palkia in the back is going to finish things up, I would wager.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it no matter what. We're going to slash. Moving on over here. Shaman gets out of KO range. Them getting professors is pretty rough. You Mars, you hope you're going to get rid of a lot of cards, right? We're going to get the heals.
We have Dialga and Arceus for our bottom player. If they can find a cape to put this other Dialga up and let it survive a hit from the big Palkia in the back, maybe we start building a path.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, you have to put energy on Dialga here. There's no point in putting it in the active spot. Makes no difference.
Yeah. So what's the sequence from here? You are putting this to 30, and then the Dialga can get a cape on it, and then clear this Palkia down to 0. Oh, we have the leaf.
Yeah.
Cool.
There we go. Yeah, they had so many options to make that work. Leaf just got there in time. Obviously, they skated by the Cyrus not coming for multiple turns and not just getting Sabrina at that one point because they had both in their deck.
Yep. So. Yeah, and the line to victory there depended on them finding a cape after everything else as well still.
Coming from the chat, I see LMAO, there is no line to win. There's always a line to win when there's Misty. But I guess that was in the other player's hands, huh?
Well, and that's the difference between players that make it to these top spots and the ones that don't, right? Like the ones that are like, oh, my opponent had good variance at the start, so I no longer have a line to win, versus the ones that are sitting here and thinking very intentionally, how do I build a winning sequence from here despite having a little bit of bad fortune?
So this is interesting. We see them have a very good start. They have second energy, which is really nice. Or excuse me, they get first energy on turn 2. They get Arceus on the bench. They do decide to play Arceus, which could be Sabrina'd, but also there's the unfortunate possibility of just getting Mistied, so I guess you need a bench, right? Could have just been Skarmory.
The one thing that stands out to me too here is we have Skarmory and Poketool in hand, and the Dialga Arceus is what we did instead. The presence of Sabrina for the top player also makes me think maybe the Skarmory should have been benched out, so that way if you get Tempo Sabrina on the first turn, you still have a good lead Pokemon to move into.
We have another Arceus, and we're still deciding. We're going to put the Rocky Helm in the active spot here. We're not going to worry about Skarmory, and we're not worrying about... Am I wrong about Sabrina? I'm looking at the right deck, right?
Yeah, it's
they have Sabrina.
Yeah, there's the Sabrina right there. Now, much to the dismay of our top player, there is a copy of Leaf here as well, so they get to go ahead and swap that around at least.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I feel like I'm watching multiple moments where this Sabrina is going to give them some trouble. However, now they're able to leaf out. They are in a position to get Cyrus, though, which is not ideal.
Well, and that's an interesting question of where does the Dialga energy go first? It's appealing to put the Dialga energy on the full health Arceus, but putting it on your damaged Arceus makes an opposing copy of Cyrus a lot less detrimental to you.
Yeah. There you go. Powering Arceus on the bench. Palkia in the active spot has the 1 energy on it. We don't know the rest of their cards, but they'd be loving to flip some heads on a Misty right here. Even still, they could be in some trouble depending on how many bench Pokemon their opponents have.
Waiting to see here what our water player is doing. That Origin form Palkia looks a lot less good in these games where you lead on your regular Palkia, because following up that non-EX that's weaker once they clear your EX means they have a pretty easy time winning the game, only needing to deal a total 270 points.
We have another Palkia. We're going to leaf into one of the Origin form Palkias right here. Give us some time.
Yep, and this builds a lot of time too. Without a copy of Cyrus, getting through 100 or 240 HP is a lot different than needing to get through 200 and 270 to win the game.
Just looking at our deck lists here.
Some folks in chat asking, are there going to be more pack codes for people watching the stream? Yes, we'll be giving some out before our semifinals, before our finals, and after the finals as well. So make sure you're hanging out if you want a chance to get a freebie.
We've got a Shaman, got a Rocky Helmet. We've got a lot of nice things here, it feels like.
Yep, the Shaman is especially nice here. Going to get to cleanse this chip shot damage off the Arceus on the back line here. I assume you even put the 3rd energy on the Dialga this turn, and then you have 2 Arceus with 2 energy. You have your Dialga ready to start attacking for 100, and I think we're going to be heading to a game 3.
Yeah, I think so, right? Feels like a good start. They're going to just retreat. Okay, they're getting really aggressive right here. So they're going for a retreat into... Nope.
No, yeah, I think retreating is very, very wrong in this instance.
Well, it gives you the KO on Origin form, and it puts you in a position to
draw Cyrus, I suppose.
Yeah, so I guess
I suppose if they build, I just don't see how our top player wins if you take it slow from here, because you have multiple things built up. You take your first knockout with Dialga, you take your second knockout with Dialga, and then the Palkia in the back could only clear one of your things with its big blast, and the Arceus comes in and mops up afterwards.
Okay. Manaphy. Yeah. You could leaf into Manaphy at some point. Do they have multiple leafs in their deck? I'm guessing they have 2. Yeah, they have 2.
Leaf into Manaphy would have been very good for our top. I guess it still clears in 1. I think our Palkia player's in a tough spot regardless.
Mars, always tempting.
There's essentially 3 attackers on the bottom side of the board here for our Dialga player, and they're each threatening a really good amount of damage at this point.
Feels like they're in a great spot here, taking this first point. Now, obviously, the Palkia player can give up a second point. So they could put Manaphy in right now. They could put Palkia in. They go for the Manaphy.
So with the Manaphy up, I guess you only need... They need a single heads-on Misty to attack twice with the EX Palkia. Because this gets it to 4. Next turn they attach to 5. That's a really interesting place to cape.
Irida. Okay.
I feel like I would want to cape the Palkia EX so it can survive a Rocky Helmet plus an Arceus hit.
They have 2 capes.
They could just have a second one. That's fair.
So they have 2 capes. They've got the energy on Palkia. They could be looking for a Misty's here.
Crack in for 100, clean this out.
And now with 1 energy on it, they only need to place 1 energy on it to retreat. We also don't know. They could have their other leaf. They've only used 1 leaf, correct?
Yep. We need a cape plus a Misty Heads here. And you have 2 turns to get the Misty Heads to be able to win this game for our top player.
We have other Palkia.
If they don't have another
Manatees.
cape, the cape on the back one is truly baffling. Okay,
They
the other
do.
cape.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Do they have Misty? They've got the energy on Origin form right here.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so if they
Oh,
hit,
they can Cyrus.
if they leaf next turn, they
Yeah.
can put up Origin Form Palkia and hit heads to clear the
Oh,
Arceus.
that's right. Yeah, heads would actually take it.
Yep. Oh, never mind. There's a shaman. There's a shaman.
Yeah, but still. Yeah, it's pretty big.
Although
They have Mars here.
I suppose the Palkia Origin Form Palkia with the cape technically survives a hit, but the Giovanni is sitting here, so that's not going to be the case.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they're looking for Mars. I mean, they're getting rid of 2 for 1. Something. We'll never know if they gave them something they really wanted or not, right?
Yep. As one of those spots where it's as good as you want it to be in your mind, Spragels.
Yeah. 130 damage onto Palkia. They're going to need
4 Misty Heads. 3 Misty Heads? 4 Misty. They need 4 Misty Heads to not. They only need 2 Misty Heads to tie.
Wait. Okay.
They could draw the game. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, this is an optimal play, right? Because you're losing otherwise.
Yeah, I think so.
So, for people who aren't familiar with how ties work in Pokemon Pocket, there's 2 conditions. Did a player obtain 3 points? In this case, both players did. And then, does either player have bench Pokemon remaining? And in this case, they both did.
Yeah.
In my heart and my mind, Spraggles, they didn't have that Misty, and the Mars drew them into it.
I would like to believe that as well. I think we all would like to believe that. We all would like to believe that every Mars that is played is bad, and every Misty is the only reason you lose games. Otherwise, you'd outplay your opponents every time. For sure.
So as we head on in here to game 3, but potentially not the last game, because one player needs to win 2 games in order to move on to the next round.
Here we go. Energy advantage to our bottom player, but they do not have Dialga. However, not a bad start here with Skarmory.
Just to correct some confusion, because players are very confused and even confidently confused and wrong. If you have 4 points and your opponent only has 3 points, that does not change whether or not it's a tie. The only tiebreaker is if players have bench Pokemon, and if they both have bench Pokemon, it's a draw no matter how many they both have.
Your chatters are sometimes confidently wrong. I've never had that happen.
God, never once? That's amazing.
No, I actually never before. This is really cool to hear. Wow. If this wins the game, I'm going to eat my hand right now. Oh, thank goodness. I actually liked having 2 hands. Oof. That was scary.
Spraggles had to threaten his hand there because he felt like he has influenced far too many turn 1 Misty coins today, and he would feel bad if he did it further.
You are fully right. As we are looking at a nice start here, they're going to be able to attack with Skarmory. This giant cape means they're swinging for 50 damage every time.
Yep, and this is what you put the Skarmory in your deck to do, right? Is get out here extra aggressive.
Yeah, I think one nice thing about having this in the deck too, as opposed to some of the decks that don't run another option, is it lowers the likelihood of you first turning Arceus only, right? So you just have a higher likelihood of maybe grabbing a basic that's not so terrible right at the start. We've got a couple of Pokeballs on the side of our water deck here.
Looking to
now
see
the water deck is down 1 game, correct? It's it needs to win 2 in a row.
Is that accurate? I thought they won the first one.
Oh, did the water deck win the first one?
No,
No, I can't
now you're
remember.
gonna make me go look. We have.
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
You're right. I should be better. Um.
Hmm.
Oh, I gotta refresh my bracket real quick.
Well, oh, the water deck won.
Yeah,
Well, that's what the chat's
I
telling
was
me.
pretty sure the water deck won the first one.
Okay, great.
Okay. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So we had a win into a draw. So
Fair
the
enough.
water deck needs to win one more, and the metal deck needs to win two more. And at some point, I'm gonna put game wins for the players on the overlay for next time.
One day.
One day.
That does take a lot. It's a lot because the matches go really fast.
Yeah.
Another 50. Palkia taking a lot of damage right here. Irida can save him a bit. Yep. There it is.
That's a big save here, being able to take an extra shot. We see the second energy going on the Palkia, kind of implying that they might be retreating it before it goes down fully.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of retreating, I wonder if because that's a play that's on the table, I wonder if we'll see the Skarmory back out and put energy on the Arceus to get that going ahead of time next.
Yeah.
A lot of choices here for our bottom player. Even just do they leaf out the Skarmory or spend the energy off of it? I think I'd be inclined to spend the energy so I get the Professor's Research turning this turn.
Yeah, I think so. Skarmory's done a pretty good job. You could give it a break. Pokeball. Cape. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, the Arceus can survive a huge dimensional storm.
That's assuming it doesn't take any chip shots first, though. And
Yep,
we're not charging up. Okay.
Okay.
There's no Cyrus in hand for our bottom player yet, so if this Palkia tries to head back to the bench, it will be safe in the back.
Irida in the active spot. They stay.
Okay. Well, I mean, our top player has a copy of Sabrina, right? So this is the downside to this Skarmory. If there's a Sabrina, they can Sabrina up one of these other two, and then the what's it called finishes the Skarmory off. Which is another reason to have pulled it out last turn.
Interesting. And now they would have to put an Arceus here because it's the only thing that could survive it.
Yep. Because
holy moly.
Because they put the cape on the Arceus instead of saving it for the Dialga, so the Dialga can't go up. So they're... Yeah, I think they're realizing the bind they've put themselves in at this point.
I guess they can Sabrina and slow this a little bit. They could Sabrina and retreat. Yeah. I like this play. I mean, yeah. Now you're in this weird spot though. That Skarmory is always hanging out on 10 unless you get Shaman, right?
Yep. And I think this is part of why, we haven't seen a lot of Skarmory in these Dialga decks is once you give up this first knockout point, you're in a bad way from there because they only declare one of your EXs.
This is nice though, because now if you do Sabrina, Arceus comes in, but they're able to retreat with Leaf, put one more energy on Dialga, and end it.
Yeah, the Sabrina putting up the Manaphy might have been a misstep here for our water player up top.
Yeah,
giving up that first knockout point. Yep.
Here's the Sabrina. You put in Arceus. Yeah, it survives.
We're gonna be heading to a game 4 here. It looks like.
Unless do they have potion? Even they need 2 potions. They don't have either.
Yep.
Yeah, and now you're kind of wondering as the water player, you're like, man, they were pretty excited to do that.
Yeah, there was no thinking about that. They just clicked it right away.
They were ready for it.
So are we switching then? Or are we just making them have it? They have 2 copies of Leaf. Yeah, I think you're committed at this point.
Yeah. They already Sabrina. So if they try to retreat here, yeah. Yep. I mean, really close, obviously, really close. But they've got the checkmate on the other side. Leaf right into enough energy to deal the damage right here.
Yep.
They also have Mars, which they could play. They love to play that card.
Yep, we are heading to a game 4 here. 1 game win for each side and a draw means we've got one more to settle it out and find out which of these 2 players and decks is going to be meeting a Rampardos deck in the finals here today. Our top 4 being 2 Rampardos, the Origin Form Palkia, and then this Dialga Arceus, the deck to beat.
Man, you got to give it up. This has been a great series between these two. Also, heading to that draw, that was really well played by the Arceus Dialga player right there, just looking for their perfect line to victory. Really, really nice stuff.
Yeah,
coming in from the chat, you should hide the bottom player's hand. We're on a delay. We're not giving information out.
I mean, I just assumed because they were playing Mars, they wanted to play on hard mode, so we'd give the top player an advantage.
Yeah. Can you imagine? We're just like the other players like listening to all like us go through every single possibility. They could use Geo here because they haven't.
They're just not used to the level of technology we have, Spragels. We have a lot of computers involved to make all this happen.
There is a lot of technology behind the scenes.
All right, we have a potentially ideal start for our top player here heading into our 4th game. We have a Manaphy. The question is, do they have Palkia and Origin Form Palkia to power up in the back? That's only 1 basic.
Only 1. It's not terrible. It's not perfect either. You Misty right here.
That's fine. You just hit 4 heads and we can wrap this last one up real quick.
Oof. Don't say things like that.
See, I don't threaten to eat my hand. I want it. I want it real bad, Spragels.
You know that I still would have had to eat my hand. It's kind of on the table. All right, so Palkia powered up 1 energy. We have Dialga here, and we have Leaf. This actually is a pretty solid start for them. They can power Dialga right here, and now they can kind of hang out here like, oh, I'm not. Do I have Leaf? Do I not? I don't even know.
Yep.
And next turn, they're able to use it.
I'm really excited to see how this game plays out because I feel like we've had like some kind of limp draws on both sides, and now we have not perfect starts for either player, but like these decks are doing what they're interested in doing here.
The chat is saying, say no to cannibalism. Is it cannibalism if you eat your own hand? Come on.
Asking the important philosophical questions of our time.
Well, we're in the top 4 at this point, Jeff. If people don't walk away from this learning something, then we haven't done our jobs.
So, second Palkia is a really good draw for our top player here. They might have preferred Origin Form Palkia over it, but they're going to get to charge up 2 things towards Dimensional Storm simultaneously, which is a really big deal, it feels like.
Dialga putting the Rocky Helm on, so if either of these Palkias deal some damage, they are going to take some damage in return, and that does put them in that annoying spot, right, where if they don't have Cape, that damage is huge because you can't Irida after the Rocky Helm has hit, and that puts you in range to be KO'd by Arceus with a full bench.
Yep, and now on our water player's side, they have to kind of stop and think, do I give up this Manaphy point? Because if I give up this Manaphy point, locking out either of my EXs is a game win for the bottom player. So this is a big decision where they spend their energy and how they retreat this turn.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of it's going to just, depend on what you have in your hand as well. Like, do you have the capes? Do you have the ability to make this happen? We have 1 cape. We have 2 capes.
Not all heroes wear cape, Spragels, but these Palkias certainly do.
Yes, they absolutely do, as both of them are going to be dangerously close to storming in a dimensional way. 2 dimensional storms, when they collide together, they say it becomes a crimson storm. I don't know. That's what I've heard. I swear to you. That's what I've heard.
So at this point for our bottom player, I would assume you're kind of apprehensive about playing out more Pokemon because of the threat of Cyrus after your bench is going to take some chip shot damage here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see like energy on Dialga plus power up the Arceus we already have.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the tough thing, right? If you put other Arceus down, it's a one-shot. Other Dialga is a one-shot. We already have one and it's a one-shot.
Chat letting me know, by the way, Spragels, it is referred to as auto-cannibalism when you eat yourself.
Yeah, okay, so it's not just cannibalism.
You're special kind of cannibal. That's what I knew in my heart.
I knew I wasn't just regular old cannibal.
So a thought here that I think we see our player pausing on is it is somewhat appealing to put Arceus up and get the clear with... No, that can't be right. I was saying maybe it's appealing to get the clear with the Arceus because then they can't knock you out next turn.
Yeah, well, it's true, right? That's what they're going for here.
What? No! What?
Oh!
No! Oh no! Oh no! They brain farted after 9 hours. You've all done that, chat. I've done that so many times where you're like, I'm setting up this line and then I'm gonna attack and then. Someone commented it was impressive that Spragels and I were still giving cohesive commentary after 9 hours. These players have been playing for almost 9 hours. People greatly underestimate the marathon aspect of these tournaments.
It's not easy to play at a high level.
Wait.
Make it all the way through to the end. We're gonna see how this goes. It's not done,
but it's a little scuffed here. It's a little bit scuffed.
Okay. Yeah, we're just kind of looking through our options right now. They need to get rid of this Palkia, and then they need to get rid of that Manaphy. They have Cyrus for it. You hate to see it. I mean, you really hate to see it. And yeah, I have seen, this is not the first time, Jeff, that we've been very deep in a tournament and seen misplays very, very deep because these players are going for a long time. We do some damage. Palkia sits at 40.
Yeah, and at this point,
Sabrina wins the game. Wait, no, they have to retreat first.
No, they have to retreat first. So I think you just put the energy on your back Palkia and you slash to take the knockout with the lead.
They go Leaf.
Yeah, I guess you don't have to give it up here. You can slash with this one and it's still all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Because even if they Cyrus you next turn, you could just put an energy and retreat back to this one again.
Yeah. 2 points. I think it's good to go. I mean, I'm excited to see Palkia this deep in the tournament because I do think the Dialga Arceus kind of runs into a super unfortunate situation with Lucario Rampardos.
Yeah, that's true. The Palkia deck will be a much more interesting finals, I think, than because the Rampardos deck is pretty polarized in favor of Rampardos against the Dialga deck.
It's so easy to make a small mistake like that. I have done that very simple brain fart like 10,000 times. You just you forget. You're like, oh, and then I'll power my Dialga for next turn. And then you look up and you go, wait, I forgot it needed the one right now. Oh, and it's so hard because there's, you're stressed. This is like, you're very deep in a big tournament. It's hard.
Yeah, this is round. It's just past just the time. This is round 12. These players are playing today, and someone else pointing out that our bottom players' cards are in Italian, so there is a chance that they are in Europe somewhere, which would mean they are currently playing at about 2 or 3:30 a.m. depending on where they are at.
That's when European players want to play. To be fair, they want to be playing late at night. We're going to attack with Metallic Turbo. We're going to power the Arceus on the bench. That's just it, yeah.
Yep, the Crimson Storm, as Spragels would say, is coming in for the smashing win. We are heading to our finals.
Hey, this is the midway point of the video where I'd like to know from you, what is a deck that you think could be a dark horse to win a massive tournament? Let me know in the comments.
Let's go ahead and dive on in, shall we?
Here we go. Slashu is our player representing the Philippines and the water deck. And then we have, I believe it is Tushi. They are representing France, and they are our fighting deck. We are watching from their perspective right here. Riolu in the active spot.
You know what's more important than that Riolu in the active spot, Spragels? There's a fossil in their hand. I feel like that has been the make or break in most of the games that we have watched with this deck is, do they have a way to get this Rampardos online early?
Yeah, and they actually have a really solid hand in front of them. They have another Riolu, that's a Lucario, another fossil. So things are looking pretty good for them right here. As one fossil.
Are there any copies of X-Speed or Leaf for our fighting player?
There is. We have an X speed and no leaf. So they do have the option of using this X speed and making some really big plays.
So the X speed would be a huge draw here because that Cranidos hits for 50 for 1 energy. So if they find that X speed next turn, they can clear this Manaphy after it only gets to activate 1 time.
Yeah, Manaphy able to put energy on Origin Form and the Palkia here. So pretty solid start. As we see, we get Cyrus, not exactly what Jeff was looking for right there. With a second Fossil out, they could keep it or they could decide to make another Rampardos. They do right away go for 2 Cranidos.
Yeah, and this second round of energy for our Manaphy player is a really big deal. It's the difference between having 2 fully set up Pokemon and not.
Yeah, this was huge. Manaphy surviving 1 turn, massive right here. They also have the Origin Form Palkia here, which is another single point that they can give away right now. The Pokeball gives them an option to grab another Pokemon and place it on the bench, but I don't think they're going to be looking to do that here. I could be wrong, however.
I think you're probably right. A long term, having more Pokemon on the bench exposes them to things like a Sabrina, which I assume our fighting player has access to. An ideal setup here is exactly what we see for this Manaphy player. They're going to accelerate more energy here, I would imagine. They'll move into the Origin Form Palkia. Once that gets cleared, they'll hopefully close the game out with that Dimensional Storm in the back, with the big question mark for our fighting player being, does Rampardos show up? And if so, how many of them?
Yeah, because Rampardos can be a real difference maker. It will be able to take down Palkia in 1 hit, as well as Origin Form Palkia, but that EX going down in 1 hit is massive. Of course, we do have Capes on the side of our water deck, so it would be able to withstand that if they were able to cape up. We have 2 Lucarios, however, so that makes it really interesting. If we can get both Lucarios online, that's huge. Here comes Professor. Okay. In a way, very good, because they got comms with the Sudowoodo.
So
if they didn't get comms, that would be kind of a rough draw. But getting comms right here means they have the opportunity to grab Rampardos. They don't need to do it this very second, but they can get Rampardos next turn.
Yeah, and we see the long pause here on where they want to move to, and I expect, like Spragels said, we're gonna see them wait on it because they actually don't want to evolve this turn, because both Cranidos and a Rampardos that takes 50 are going to die in 1 to a heads from the Origin Form Palkia in this spot. So you want to see, okay, where does their coin go? And you want to commit your stage 2 after the coin has happened.
Interesting. We see Manaphy hit the bench here. Not what I expected. I did not expect Manaphy would get out there.
Yeah, it feels like the pause last turn was them thinking about that, and I'm curious to see that they decided to deploy it this turn now after the fact.
A heads here is very nice for them. They do pick up this KO. A tails, they do not, and they get the heads. So they are going to be 1-1 right here. Now, there are no 2 points that they're able to take on the side of this fighting deck. That's different for the water deck. Obviously, that Palkia can give them a game win. Riolu heading back to the active spot.
Yeah, and here's the Rampardos. But the tough part is that Palkia in the back is charged up and ready to go. And this is kind of the squeeze that I think is making this Origin Form Palkia likely become the premier Manaphy deck in the metagame. Is you're like, okay, you need time to figure out how to beat this EX Palkia, but the Origin Form Palkia is going to pressure you so you don't have any time to assemble that.
Yeah. Now they're thinking, how am I going to handle this? They can comms the Sudowoodo, which would give them a very likely, or would give them a good shot, I should say, at getting Lucario here.
Yeah, the lack of energy on our fighting player's side, typically not problematic, because a lot of other things attack for cheap, but in this instance, it's going to be a real struggle.
Interesting. It gave them Marshadow. Now that is very interesting, because Marshadow does KO this Palkia unless we can cape the Palkia. Professors is now going to be searching the deck for our water player. If they cape right here, they take Riolu and they do not go down to this Marshadow KO, this Marshadow Revenge.
Well, so the cape doesn't even really matter, right? Because you're getting your second point as the top player regardless of what this coin is. And then if they Marshadow your single pointer, that also doesn't matter because they're only on 1 point. And then the Palkia finishes. They have the cape too, so they just like have it all. But even without the cape, I think this is basically checkmate because we're getting second point here, and then nothing on the fighting spot side survives that dimensional storm the following turn.
Yeah, I guess they had to put in Cranidos last turn, didn't they? They just had to put it in and get Rampardos. Even still, they were in trouble, but that would at least give them the ability to KO Palkia, and they just did not have that ability at all last turn.
Yep.
So it's over.
They get to take this point with the Rampardos, but this is going to 100, and even if it was at a full 150, the Dimensional Storm still does that amount. It looks like game one of our finals here is going to be going over to our Palkia player up top.
Well, this deck has seen some really exciting finishes this week, and I kind of heard rumblings of it heading into the weekend here in our big tournament. I know I was playing it on stream maybe yesterday or the day before, kind of checking it out, and it felt like that Origin form was a really strong version of this deck. It was a little stronger than Vaporeon, a little stronger than having Drudagon or something like that. It almost feels like a Drud that can attack.
I've never been a Vaporeon believer in these Manaphy shells, and I think the innovation of what we've talked about a few times in a few different decks today, where you go one knockout point, EX, and these Manaphy decks have really struggled to find a good one knockout point. People have tried things like Abomasnow, and it's not quite had nearly as much success. And really, just the motto of our current metagame is basic Pokemon are great. Essentially, we see the Arceus Dialga deck is all basics, and this Origin Form Palkia is like, well, what if we just had a good basic one knockout point Pokemon?
Here we have a start. Energy advantage over to our fighting deck. Manaphy start for our water deck. We're going to see what they can get going here. Obviously, we have no way for this to KO the Manaphy in one turn here. Sabrina, Pokeball. Could grab us possibly Riolu, and it does. It could grab Marshadow as well. And they're going to be able to start swinging here.
Okay, first energy advantage for our fighting player. A big deal here, especially when they have the Lucario teed up. If there's not a cape in hand for our Manaphy player or an Irida, it's going to go down next turn.
Yeah. And we do have a lot of what we're looking for. We do have the cape as well. He's going to bring him up to 50. This is a really good start for our water deck.
If you're drawing it up as the water player, literally the only difference is you Misty on one and I'd get to Manaphy a turn sooner. Misty on two. That's fine. We'll settle for that.
Let's see what this provides.
Nothing.
And it's a miss. To be fair, they're in an amazing spot without this. That would just be... Yeah, that would just be a disgusting way to end this tournament. But we do have Lucario. We actually have two Lucarios here.
And this, the last game felt kind of close in spots because they had that fossil Pokemon early. And I bet, as my kind of metagame called shot, that we're going to see this fighting deck fall off a little bit as we move forward in this metagame because of this deck that we're seeing them play against here in the finals.
Yeah, it's a really solid water deck. Water just has so many options right now too, with this Irida. It's just so powerful, and this is a great this is a great addition. Like Origin Form Palkia, I think a lot of people were wondering how much the Origin Form cards would affect the meta. And this one seems to have a really nice spot in this deck.
Yeah, it's a card that I personally was very wrong about. It was the last card that I opened from the latest expansion. I was like, oh, it doesn't matter because that card's not very good. And it is really showing how different the power level needs to be for something when it's a one-pointer versus an EX in these games.
Yeah, here we go. No fossil. I mean, you can comms your Rampardos here. But you have this unfortunate thing is when you comms your Rampardos, later, if you ever possibly need it, you don't get it.
And they're only 50% to find something useful, right? Like their deck right now is, I guess another Pseudo-Wudo is kind of useful. There's a Pseudo-Wudo, a Marshadow.
They only have one Pseudo-Wudo in their deck.
So it's 50%. It's a Riolu and a Marshadow are the live hits. And there's just another Cranidos and another Rampardos as things to hit potentially.
Yeah. I think they're recognizing just without grabbing one of these fossils, they're in a lot of trouble here. And they're thinking, do we send in Lucario? Do we send in Rampardos? I don't have the fossil. I don't have Riolu. What do we do here?
Sending in Lucario seems nonsense to me because you're only in 1 in 4 good hits. Like you need to keep the Lucarios that way if you find Riolu. Yeah, I mean that was the worst possible, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, other Rampardos would feel pretty bad.
But
But yeah,
other
Granados.
Rampardos, you like still have your full fossil line at least.
Agreed. All right. I mean, this just feels like we're in a really rough spot for our fighting deck.
Oh man, love it. Very rude, Sabrina here.
This is huge. Heads is just insane here. Wow.
We're done.
Yeah. Massive. I mean, they don't have another basic. They don't have anything.
I feel like I need to make one of those Scooby-Doo memes where they're ripping the head off the villain and it's orange form Palkia into Executor. Watching this game play out. There's a fossil, but I think it's probably too little too late, yeah?
I would say so, but I mean, I guess they're thinking like, is there any line here? There is not.
I mean, you're definitely playing it out. If they hit Tails, you can get to Rampardos before they can clear you. But that Rampardos is no longer is no longer clearing Palkia in one because you don't have Lucario. So I guess your line is they hit Tails and you draw Riolu next turn, right?
Yeah.
The start of maybe a line.
Yeah, there's the heads.
There's the heads.
Tudowoodo's down.
Yeah, I think
this is guaranteed game. As long as they just retreat. They just retreat into the Palkia and they end it. They're looking for something that doesn't. Yeah. Nothing they can do really here. We put down Riolu. We attack. They're just playing through it. The water deck wins without hitting a Misty, by the way, Jeff. It did not hit a Misty.
Yep. They bricked on the only Misty, right? And they had the fighting player had first energy advantage this game too, right?
Yep. There you have it. Huge win. Slashu from the Philippines. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I love you. I'll see y'all next time. We did it. Oh, by the way, I'll have the full link to the tournament in the description and pinned comment here if you want to check out all of the amazing matches.